Obama destroyed us. Carino's Italian's co-founder, Creed Lamar Ford III and co-founder of Fired Up said, well, more or less. For a company named Fired Up, it looked on as its Carino's Italian restaurant business died an agonizingly slow death. The company went from having about 170 locations in 30 states and 4 countries to a paltry 37. And the story of how it happened is quite sad. This is Carino's Italian story, where success is a double-edged sword. There is an Italy in America. What do we mean by this? The Italian culture and cuisine is a major staple in the American lifestyle. Americans especially love Italian cuisine. Pizza, lasagna, tiramisu, tortellini, and so on have all found a home on the palate of Americans. And no, we aren't exaggerating about the American love for Italian dishes. Did you know that there are about 48,453 Italian restaurants in America? That's not even all. Restaurants that aren't Italian in their core business also sell Italian meals, even if this means those meals are a bit Americanized. For instance, pizza and spaghetti in the States are not the same in Italy. Italians aren't so crazy about spaghetti with large meatballs as Americans are, but you can see what I mean. Americans love Italian dishes and would always go to Italian restaurants and eat as long as the meal is tasty. This was the love America had for Carino's Italian when the restaurant first began operations. People went there for its favorites, which were lasagna, spicy shrimp, and family platters. Notice how we didn't mention pizza? As much as people loved their pizza, they had a strong followership of the other items on Carino's menu. But it wasn't just Americans who loved the restaurant. It expanded into 4 other countries. Wherever the restaurant went, love followed. Until it didn't. Now, wherever the restaurant goes, you are more likely to see folks turning up their noses or sticking out their tongue. Things have gotten so bad with the chain's food that it has made it into a list of the worst Italian restaurants. Ouch! The Italian chain's food has seen a decline. The worst kind, with food like pizza, tortellini, and lasagna leaving customers pissed with their alleged horrible taste. Don't even get us started on their tiramisu, which customers have described as watery. So both the chain's main dishes and desserts have been classified as horrible. So how did it happen? How did the chain go from being beloved to a place people don't want to go to? Carino's Italian began as Spaghetti's, which Brinker International founded in 1992. Compared to some other restaurants, it is relatively young. In 1997, Creed Lamar Ford III and Norman Abdallah bought the chain using their Lakeway-based restaurant company, Fired Up. Let's tell you a little bit about Ford. The man began his career in operating restaurants when he was 24, working at Dallas's first Chili's Bar and Grill, which the billion-dollar restaurant company Brinker International owned. The company had over 700 restaurants and employed around 70,000 people worldwide. Ford was a hard worker. He continued as Chili's Grill and Bar employee, even becoming Brinker's chief operating officer. As Brinker's operating officer, Ford took an active part in managing the company's over 700 restaurant businesses, which included Chili's on the Border, Romano's Macaroni Grill, Spaghetti's, and so on. It was at Brinker International that Ford met Abdallah, and the two men formed Fired Up in 1997. After they formed the company, the men bought the 5 Spaghetti's locations, and it turned into Carino's Restaurant, an Italian chain. The chain wouldn't be the only one Fired Up would own. It also owned Kona Ranch Steakhouse, which was Ford's answer to the oversaturated Texas steakhouse restaurants in America. When it came to restaurants, Ford knew his stuff, and he also had an enormous appetite for risks. But sometimes, appetites need to be tamed, or trouble would call. And for Carino's, trouble called, and it gleefully picked. But Ford didn't know. And if you like to learn about the history of your favorite eateries, be sure to subscribe for more content like this. There was just something about this guy that you just wanted to be in business with him, Penn Parrish said, even describing Ford as a business icon. Carino's Italian went through a massive expansion throughout the United States. It had locations in West Virginia, Florida, Michigan, Virginia, Pennsylvania, North and South Carolina, Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. The chain fueled this expansion from the $16 million it got after selling its preferred shares to Rosewood Capital. Soon, the business crossed over 100 stores and was contemplating going public. By 2007, it had around 170 franchise owners in 30 states of America and 4 other countries. Life was good for Carino's. Until it wasn't. The restaurant enjoyed massive growth, but soon it began to experience troubles. The chain peaked in 2007, and the only other place for it was down. In 2008, the company recorded a net loss of $15.9 million, and things spiraled even more. But there was some positive news. Ford redeemed the $16 million in preferred shares the business sold to Rosewood Capital in 2002. The businessman financed the transaction using the Ford family-owned FRG Capital LLC. Carino's Italian would not go down without a fight and managed to report some profit. But in 2013, the company had a $5.9 million net loss. For the sake of preservation, the business closed down 19 stores between the end of 2013 to early 2014, but this didn't work. The chain's debt profile continued to grow, with the brand filing Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in early 2014. During this period, the company still had revenue issues and debt issues. The company had a plan to repay its debts, but had to borrow some more to be able to operate. As it turned out, the company was overly optimistic and was still in bankruptcy 2 years after filing. So, in the early part of 2016, it began exploring ways to sell most, if not all, of its locations and liquidate assets that are not being used to maximize repayment to remaining creditors. The company re-entered bankruptcy 3.5 months after leaving it in early 2016, as it still owed its creditors $19 million. Unfortunately, that's not the end of its debt. The chain also owed $905,000 in back wages, bonuses, and vacation time to its employees. Then there were back taxes and lease obligations. Sheesh. The bottom line was that Carino's Italian was in trouble, and the company blamed Obama and oil. It said revenues were also down and continued to decrease because of the severe decline in the price of oil and gas and corresponding cutbacks and closings in the oil and gas industry. The company then added that Obamacare also affected its projection for employee benefits, which then affected its marketing budget. Essentially, the brand was flat broke, and it only had $3.5 million in assets apart from its trademarks and other intellectual property. Again, sheesh. The business continued to exist, except the owners weren't there to right the ship. Norman Abdallah jumped ship to become the CEO of Del Frisco's restaurant group. Then in 2018, Ford died of a heart attack at 66. When Norman and Ford began Carino's Italian, they had a grand ambition, and it was that ambition that would be the death of their business. The restaurant went from having around 170 stores, some international, to just 37 or thereabout. The business owed, and things continued to get worse until Norman left the company and Ford died. When Ford died, people said he created a legacy. Did he, or did his most prized business become a failure? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to support our channel.